got it.
Tuesday night, KHOP88 is on the air.
Woo!
Woohoo! Marnie from Portland. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. Excuse me, verklempt. And joining us from Watertown, Minnesota, west of the Twin Cities by, I don't know, what, 45 minutes or so?
Yeah, 35, something like that. Yep.
Yeah. Phil Bremer. Phil, great to see you out in your backyard there.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
So we caught up a little bit in the pre-show interview, but you've just been in Watertown for a few years. How did you, so you talked, well, why don't we just run through it? You lived in several places. What was your journey from high school to Watertown?
How much time do we have?
Jason, break it down for the man.
Yeah,
So,
okay. So right
go
out of
ahead.
school, you went to
Bemidji State University. Yep.
and
From there, before they kicked me out, believe it or not, I went over to Stout. And in that interim, I joined the military as a Navy reservist. This is right after the first Gulf War. I got out just as the second one was heating up. I don't know if you want to say my timing was perfect. I ended up graduating from Stout with an engineering degree, got all my grades back on track. And the whole reason behind that is I followed my older brothers to Bemidji State and they showed me all the ways not to go to college. So interesting.
Well, tell us more about Bemidji State since you brought up not having some excitement there.
First question. So you followed your brothers up there. I mean, I don't recall anybody else I know going to Bemidji State. Were there other kids from our class that went up there?
Do you guys remember a guy named John Langer?
Yes. Yeah.
I ran into him at a party once and he was a student there and I only saw him once.
Because he didn't graduate with us, but he grew up with us, right? He was in
correct.
West High School or West Junior.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So that's far north.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
And you enjoyed the nightlife there?
A little bit too much. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was fun to get away from home and, you know, at the time, if you guys remember the drinking age, my older brothers could drink, but I couldn't. So it was easy to have it around, all of that stuff. And I actually went to, lived with a bunch of guys from Hopkins High School. Not all of them were college students, but they all came from the class of '86. So in addition to one of my brothers, there was probably about 3 or 4 other individuals. So we kind of went up there as a group, if you will.
Sure.
But I started school all over again over at Stout. Absolutely loved Wisconsin. Graduated with an engineering degree, and I'm still doing the 2 weeks a year, 1 weekend a month. I did that for a number of years.
So let me ask you about your Navy commitment. So were you on a boat? Like when you're a Navy reservist in Minnesota, Wisconsin, where do you go and what do you do? So
I did the normal boot camp that, you know, the military does. But I was a builder in the Navy. So I was actually part of a group called the Seabees, Construction Battalion. If I was to be transported, it would be on a ship. But other than that, I was always land-based. So it was everything from heavy equipment operator to building strong back tents, rapid runway repair, just anything to keep our troops going at the time. Now, what I was doing is when those guys would leave their current roles here in the States, I would go fill in and take over some of their jobs. So spent some time in Miramar, California, is probably where I like to go the most.
Sure.
So it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad at all. I'm glad I served and spent 8 years doing that.
Oh, cool. Great.
Yep.
Okay, so back to graduating with your engineering degree from Stout.
Yeah. So from there, I kind of bounced all over the place. I even took a small job down in, right outside of Madison, because I lived in Baraboo. Starts with a P, I want to say. But anyway.
Okay. Like Poinet maybe? Or?
No, it was on the north side of 94. I'd have to look at a map.
Okay.
I want to say Portland, but it isn't. So I did a job, but it was mostly in hands-on CNC, computer-aided design. I did everything. I came out thinking I don't want anybody to think that I didn't know what I was talking about. So I actually, as I was still doing that, I was still in classes. So I did everything from the desk jockey to running the machines. And I got really, really good at it. That kind of job, you learn more and more about less and less. When we talk about tolerances, they're crazy tolerances, but did everything, ended up doing stuff for the computer industry, a lot of medical, dental, implants, just anything precision metal. I probably had a hand in it at one point. A lot of aerospace, Lockheed Martin, NASA, a lot of parts like that.
Okay, I have to dwell on this a little bit more. So you said are you fabricating things or designing them or both?
So a lot of our customers, they would do the design work.
Okay.
So for example, when we did stuff for JPL out of California, their engineers, they would come up with some crazy designs, and we ended up having to figure out how to make it for them. So whether that was several transitions before we got the final part, or just a little bit of everything, but it was mostly exotic metals, and we actually made some gun parts too. A lot of parts. I didn't make any that are on Mars right now, but the company I work for, they have about 150 of the parts on the Mars rover playing around up in space. So,
wow.
Yep, all high-end stuff.
That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know how many more steps there are, but now that you're a realtor, how did you go from that work to your current occupation?
So most people don't know, but my folks were mom and pop investors, right? That was going to be their vehicle that they used to retirement. So at one point, they had 14 single family homes that they rented out.
Wow.
And then as I got older, I helped them do the painting and the repairs, a roof here and there. But I was always an engineer. And then once I got my license, I took over several of them to manage them professionally. But watching what my parents did, and that was part of being a builder in the Navy, is it kind of all just led right into real estate. The technical part of being an engineer helps me with the water heaters, the furnaces, explaining life expectancy on roofs and vinyl siding, and you name it. But it's been a calling, it's a blessing. But there's, between those two things, a lot of other things happen too.
Okay, like what?
Believe it or not, I was a casualty of the crash back in 2008. I got foreclosed on. I've been divorced. Essentially, I broke my back. I mean, it's just been a whole whirlwind of things. So I've been really, really heavy, unrecognizably heavy. And now I've got everything under control and everything is smooth sailing now. So.
Oh, that's really interesting. Well, good for you. That's great to hear that you're, yeah. What a journey though. That's fantastic. So you, I can't remember, did we talk about your family before we turned on live?
Yep.
You got 2 kids.
Yep. 2 children, yep.
And
Mariah is my oldest. Yep. And Cole is my son. So.
But you're now you're an empty net. You've been an empty nester now for a little while.
Well, my daughter is technically living in my basement.
Okay.
I'm saving up money to get married.
Gotcha.
They're doing all of the applications out there in Michigan. It's hard to find something while you're 2 states away, but
Sure.
they're actively looking. So yeah, it won't be long until I'm all by myself out here. So, yep.
And a couple people are always interested in pets. So you've got
Yeah.
a couple cats.
I have two cats. One of them is mine. I got her from Wisconsin, 2003, 2004.
Whoa.
She's an
Okay.
oldie.
Yeah.
Yep, we call her Lucky because she's lucky to be alive. She was an old barn cat. We got her just as a couple ounce kitten. And then the other one belongs to my daughter and her fiance, Mr. B.
Nice.
So I got the screen door shut so they don't come out here and bother me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So my clearest memory of you, Phil, is when we were on the skiing team together in high school.
Yep.
You are also a runner on cross country and track.
Correct.
And that was pretty like I would say you weren't just a participant, you were pretty competitive, and especially you and Cookett pushed each other. And you guys were I know the top dogs on the ski team. I remember on the running team as well. What do you have good memories of that time? We had a pretty good ski team. You and John were good.
I do. In fact, you look at whether it was track or cross country running or cross country skiing with Pat Landon as the coach, that was best time ever. And I recently connected with Pat Landon on Facebook recently.
Really?
He's still around. He lives in Brainerd.
Huh. I thought I had heard that he was no longer with us. So that's
No, he is. In fact, I saw something today from him. So, and it wasn't just to me, it was just out there and he comes through on my news feed, but
sure.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful memories. In fact, when I left Hopkins High School, I went and skied for Bemidji State University. And I did that for the 2 years while I was there. So, and again, some of our competitors from Armstrong were there. And so I knew them through Hopkins and skiing here, but then they became my teammates on the college level, and that took it to a whole new level. We ended up going to the Junior Olympics, which was fun and interesting. Some of my friends actually ended up skiing for the United States back in early 2000s.
Okay.
So that was kind of fun to say, I know that guy, personally, but I look back on all of that and it was all good times.
Landon's name has come up on this show before because we love to talk about coaches and our perceptions of them. And some people have, gone on to coach their own kids in hockey or little league, and they think about the coaches that we had. I was not a good skier. I was not threatening you and Cookett for spots on the varsity. And I don't recall getting a lot of guidance from Landon in skiing. I learned a lot more from you and John and Rich Lindstrom and Bob Kirsch.
Bob Kirsch, yep.
And, so leaving that there, the thing that I remember a lot about Landon is I'm not sure whether he could still be a coach today because he was not very politically correct. He was just, I don't even want to say abrasive. He had a character, like he was definitely a big personality.
Yes. And with him, teaching the science classes, I guess I could say I'm a lot like him. It's not like you ever come up with a different answer. It's black or white in my world. Yes or no, one or two. There is very little gray in my life. And that's probably the engineering part too. But sure. Pat Landon was similar. Yep. You either do it or you don't, kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a good Landon story? Because I believe you would go up to Giants Ridge and stuff like that, right? And,
yep. We did that. Probably it was the winter of 87, 88. Like 13 or 14 weekends in a row. There was Landon and John Cookett's dad was a driver also. And there was 6, 7, 8 of us that went up there every weekend for 2 months straight, 3 months straight. All good times. But Yeah, nothing too crazy though. I mean,
Okay.
we were still, I graduated when I was 17, so we couldn't get in too much trouble.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, that's, yeah. Yeah. See, again, you being at sort of the top of the food chain on that skiing team, I'm not sure you were privy to what us bottom feeders were up to sometimes when we were out on
I
those
would never say
training
a bottom
runs.
feeder.
And you
Jason,
guys would
Whoa.
lose us pretty early on some of those training runs, and then we would
True. Yep.
Jason,
get
what were
lost.
you up to when Cookit and Phil were ahead?
Well, I remember there were a couple of guys a year behind us. You probably remember them, Phil. Dave Engler and Bill Medchill, I think I want to say is his name.
As a runner, boy, both of those names ring a bell. I'd have to see a face.
Yeah, Medchill was a very gifted runner, not so much skier.
Mhm.
Engler was pretty good at both, but drifty and funny and just like rebellious and just weird. And often what would happen is if you were running with those guys, there tended to be a detour to some girl's house.
Well, then I know I wasn't with
Yeah.
them.
What do you mean? You would ski to a girl's house?
No, well,
No, we're talking about running though.
yeah,
but-
training
running,
runs.
okay.
Training runs.
Yeah.
Although what would have been the winter of our junior year, we didn't get a lot of snow that year, so there was
Mhm.
a lot of running that season. And yeah,
Yeah.
we would just get, we would get sort of dropped, and then these guys would start talking, and they'd say, well, so and so lives, not far from here. We should
Yeah.
go. We should go over there. And it was like, what do you want? What do you want to go over there for? Like, what am I going to do over there? You like her, I'm not.
Right.
So
And
it'd be
so
a lot
when
of arguing, and then it would be like Engler and me, and maybe like Eric Ewald.
Now, wasn't
at the
Mike
bottom of the-
Lesage in some of this too?
Well, he was not a skier. He was just a runner, I think. Just
Oh, okay. But he was in the running part of it, and
He might have been.
yeah.
I remember Mark Mengi, Sandum. But we would often be standing at the bottom of the driveway while Medchill was flirting with some girl at her front door while we were supposed to.
Oh,
That's a
But
good
that was
memory.
a fun. Yeah, another thing I remember about that winter is the constant search for snow. So we would
Yes.
have practices in weird locations where Landon could find
and-
snow.
and if I remember right, it ended up being on lakes and golf courses.
Yeah.
I don't remember the small lakes right off of Cedar, but
Yeah.
we had a couple races down there, and mhm.
We'd put on our running shoes. Somebody would throw all the probably Landon threw all the skis in his van or something. And we would run to that lake just down Cedar Lake Road.
Mhm.
And he would meet, and then we'd put skis on and then ski in circles around that stupid lake.
Yep,
And then
lots
do
of
the same
circles.
thing back.
Yep.
I was like, this is not a fun sport. What did I do?
Mhm.
getting into this?
So Phil, you say you have still connect with Landon. Are there any other staff members at Hopkins High who influenced you?
Oh boy. Do you guys remember Noble? So
Who's
this would have
Noble?
been sophomore or junior year. He was a language arts teacher. I remember him because he kind of befriended my older brother, Paul. And if I remember the stories correctly, I think he was over in Vietnam and he saw the worst of the worst. And so that made an impact on my brother, Paul, who went into the Air Force. And so that rings true. But again, I don't remember names so much, but I could still walk through and still staying in the cities. I probably run into 3, 4, 5 different people that we've graduated with. And I can't remember her name, but I was down in Shakopee and walk into a Home Depot and I walked by somebody and I think, God, I went to high school with her. So at the same moment I turned around, she turned around, we pointed at each other and we're like, Hopkins? Yep. And then we just kept going the same, our own ways. But it's kind of funny how that all works.
Yeah.
And so now as a realtor, do you run into Hopkins High grads often?
Um, honestly, I don't.
Okay.
So it seems like somebody who's in their late 40s, early 50s, like we are the most stable group of people there are. There's a lot of turnover in the, let's say, 25 to 32s. And then again, once you get 58 to 65, there's
Oh.
upsizing, downsizing like crazy. But,
Mhm.
I'm perfectly comfortable where I'm at. I got no plans to move, probably like a lot of other people our age.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Do you tend to work, do you have a particular territory that you work? Do you tend to stick out in that West Metro area?
So I try to stay 494 and west.
Okay.
I would go everywhere from Maple Grove down to Eden Prairie, Chanhassen, Victoria, all the way down to Cottage Grove along the south side. And that's only because I know them. I know all of those areas. So if you allow me to, I'll tell you, I lived in 18 different cities in the South Metro.
Ooh.
I mean, we moved a lot. The kids were small, but I've had a couple homes in Prior Lake, Apple Valley, Egan, lived in Victoria, obviously Waconia, now Watertown, lived in Baraboo, Wisconsin for a while. I lived in Turtle River, Minnesota, up near Bemidji, because after, let's see here, this would have been after my wife graduated from Cairo school. She was from the Bemidji area. So we went up north and we moved up there in 2005 and then came back in 2011. So I had a couple different homes up there. Yeah, my resume is huge, huge for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, is there a kind of, I mean, is it single family homes that you specialize in, or do you do whatever? Do you sell and buy whatever?
So it seems like a lot of the buyers, most recently, let's say 2021, have been all first-time home buyers, but this could be anything from 200,000 up to 500,000 and 600,000, which seems kind of crazy, but it happens. Some people save. The biggest thing I find is that even adults, they don't know how financing works or credit cards work, or how do you build credit? How do you repair credit? What can you do? What shouldn't you do? And having been where I've been and done what I've done, I've got to do this with everybody, from multimillionaires down to first-time home buyers, and I pick up a little bit from each person. So I've seen it, and if I haven't done it personally, I know somebody who has, and I like that when it's a first-time home buyer and you're setting them up and you're going through not only the house, but then you go through the life portion, or at least I do, and you explain, here's what your credit score means. This is how to improve it. This is the things to avoid. And if you didn't avoid them yet and you're in the trap, here's how to get out. And it turns into be more like a life coach is what I'm doing for a lot of these buyers. There's crazy number of people who are upside down financially and they don't even know it. Oh, I'm paying my bills, but that won't get you anywhere if you're not doing the right things and saving and those kinds of things. So kind of try to bring it all together.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, I find that the real estate profession, especially in just the last, 5 or 6 years is it's just a lot more complicated, it seems to me, because of the way the market has gone. You're really dealing with people sometimes too, that people are looking for a house for 6 months, maybe even a year.
6 months, I'd take those all day. A lot of them are a year or more.
Okay.
I mean, it really is, because either they have taste and they want specific areas or certain neighborhoods, and you just sit around and wait oftentimes for something to come up. And one of the hardest things to find is something really, really high quality, but in a small single family home package. Really difficult to find at a reasonable price. I mean, you can find big and expensive, you can find small, but having something really high quality and it's like driving, let's say a BMW versus a Chevette, they're roughly the same size, but you get so much more quality, and that is the hard thing to find. It
Yeah.
really is. Mm-hmm.
Are there communities that you're working or that you've seen that you've, turned people onto or done some work in that you think are like, okay, this is a hot community, or this is like a place where people should be looking if they're looking for value that's going to really grow?
That's tough.
Okay.
Only because everything has been moving so fast, and Minneapolis and the suburbs very desirable by all standards. So I had a listing not that long ago where people flew in from Texas to look at it. But we're getting a lot of influx from both the East Coast and the West Coast because our prices, relatively speaking, are the cheapest in the nation. And yet all of the locals who live here go, man, this is expensive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'm very interested in this story too, of people who now no longer have to live in a big city to do their job, like, Chicago, New York, the traditional huge cities. They can do their job from anywhere. So they're going to move to Minnesota, Wisconsin, where life is a little bit, they can get more value, but it's also the lifestyle that they're kind of looking for too. They can get much more room to move. Crazy.
Yep. And I see that in some of these first-time home buyers. You ask them what they do, and they essentially work from home doing all kinds of different stuff, but it all comes down to online sales of one kind or another.
Mhm.
So where, in fact, I had this conversation with my folks just recently, how when they grew up, you get a job, you stay there, and you hope to get a pension. And now just, my son, I mean, he was in Utah, California, Arizona, Minnesota, all in the same week, and he never skipped a beat. He just pulls out his laptop, and kind of interesting.
Crazy.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Things are different now.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So one of the questions we ask everybody is, during the pandemic, did you pick up any new hobbies or pastimes that you weren't doing before?
Boy, I tend to work a lot when I work. Oftentimes it's sun up to sundown. It's not like I'm answering to anybody, or I rush home because my kids have soccer or swimming lessons or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. So I just spend all the time on the road. But when the pandemic first hit, let's say March, I had a lot of clients back out of the contracts that they were under, and my buyers, the sellers could understand that too, and they're like, well, we don't really want to sell either. We don't know what's out there.
Sure.
So that, I think, probably just like everybody else, we sat tight for 3, 4, 5 months before you even dared really think about doing much. But as far as new hobbies, no, I already have a lot of them. So, like everything outside.
Yeah. What's your big thing? What now that we're late summer, early fall, what do you like to do this time of year?
So I fish semi-competitively every other week with another Hopkins grad from 86. And we fish a league out of the Southwest Metro. We're currently in first for everybody who's watching, right? The competitors, that is, and it's a fun thing. And
so we need to stop you right there, because I know I'm anticipating this question from Marnie. Explain to someone who doesn't know anything about fishing what competitive league fishing is like. What does a night on the lake look like for you?
Okay, so we start at 4:30, right? And
in the morning?
No, 4:30 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And it's on a Thursday evening. So as soon as everybody gets off work, we all go to the same lake, fish at the same time. And what it is it's catch and release tournaments. So and it's bass only. So it wasn't all that long ago. We were on Lake Waconia, and from 4:30 to 8:30 or 4:30 to 9, it's who can put the biggest 5 fish in your boat. You weigh them in, and once everybody comes off, we all gather around, we watch the scales, and we ooh and ah as we lift up these giant fish, and then we let them all go and move on to the next lake 2 weeks later. And the competitive part comes in where we each pay a fee to play the game, and then we try to earn all of our money back and then take other people's money their entry fees. So
Okay.
yeah.
So what's the biggest bass your team has caught this season?
It was on Waconia, 4.95 pounds. So by all practical purposes, it's a giant for Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So how many more weeks do you have left to hold on to your first place?
So Thursday is on Minnetonka. Then we're going to be down in Lakeville in 2 more weeks. And then after that, we have an unknown lake, because the people that take it really serious, they go out there and fish ahead of time to know where the fish are.
Whoa.
Makes sense? So the last one is called the Tournament of Champions, where it's like the night before, so nobody can pre-fish it. They go, this is the lake, and we all show up, all equal ground, and we try to catch fish.
Do you scope them out early, or can you not say?
Yeah. We try. We try to catch them, but it's not like we catch them and catch them and catch them and catch them. The whole idea is you find a couple, and then you come back in a couple of days and you try to catch them again. So, yeah.
All right. Well, Dave Herbst provides some historical context here.
Okay.
He's in the comments, and he says that you and he used to bike to Grays Bay and fish off the dam. You remember that?
I do. That was a long time ago.
Where's Grays Bay? I remember that name, but I don't know where it is.
So if do you remember where the old Aqua Bowl is? So on Minnetonka Boulevard, you leave Minnetonka Boulevard going west, right before it turns south and turns into Highway 101.
Okay.
If you would go north to Wayzata, you actually cross part of Lake Minnetonka, which is Grays Bay on the right.
All right. Now I know what you're talking about.
Wow, that goes way, way back. I mean, this is way before high school.
Yeah.
That's probably like elementary almost.
That's funny. Did you guys catch any lunkers off that dam?
No, it was more like Snoopy pulls back then, but
nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I don't know. We haven't heard from any competitive fishermen in our class, Marnie, that I recall. Have we had anybody on?
No, I was just recalling Chris Camp describing what ice fishing is.
Right.
Okay.
We have had some interesting ice fishing stories. Yeah.
So Phil, is there like a statewide competition, or is it, are there leagues?
There's just a whole bunch of groups locally that go out and do this. 12, 13 boats are the small ones, the bigger ones, 40, 50 boats. I happen to be in one that's like 13, 14 boats, something like that. But these are good guys that are been doing it forever, and you come in, and I still like to fish a lot, but if I could go back, this is shortly after high school. My brother and I were into walleye tournaments, right? And we won a big tournament up on Lake Winnebagosh in northern Minnesota. And you get those giant checks, right, that you can't ever take to the bank because you can't walk them through the door. And we got one of those, and we ended up with a little paper check, and we split it. And I remember this is home number 2 in Prior Lake, and I'm writing out my bills, and I looking at my check, and I can't wait to go buy something fun with thousands of dollars. The first bill I pick up was the last payment of my student loans, and the numbers were almost identical. It's like so paid off my student loans by winning a fishing tournament. So
woohoo!
That's something. Yeah.
Yep. I don't recommend anybody try it for a living though.
Right. It
Yep.
is pretty funny to be like on a vacation lake somewhere in Wisconsin or Minnesota, and on a Wednesday or Thursday, like it's a, it's a very calm sort of vacation-y lake. But then one night a week, you're like, well, there must be a league out here, because all of a
Oh,
sudden
yeah.
the boats are out and the guys are fishing the shoreline pretty aggressively. And it's,
Yep.
different vibe. It's funny.
Yep. But even over the years, I mean, we were just down on Prior Lake and it was rough water. It wasn't because the weather was terrible. It was just that much boat traffic and water skiers and wakeboarders. And
Wow.
yep, it's just nice release to get out and have fun for a few hours.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
cool.
Interesting. Well, I have to ask one more fishing question. What do you use for bait to catch bass? Or is it a secret?
No. It's kind of interesting that you asked. First of all, there's no live bait. You can't use minnows. It has to be artificial bait.
Because of the competition rules?
It is. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so you go to the outdoor store, whatever, and you buy spinner baits and stuff. My partner, he started his own artificial bait company. So what it is it's called Billy Rub Baits. He's lives in Minnetonka and he makes them right in his basement, and that's what we're using
Okay.
to win these tournaments. And what it is he was a chef by trade, and he's always coming up with something. And he come up with this stuff called Billy Rub, and literally it's like a cream. You rub it on there, and what it's made of is the secret part. But
Okay.
you put it down there, and it's not like fish smell it like sharks and come after it. It's not like that. But when they get a hold of it, they just don't let it go. Gives you that extra time to set the hook and get them in the boat. And the funny thing is all of our competitors, they watch us catch big bass, because on a Thursday night, you can go, you can win the most, because everybody comes in with 5 fish, but you can get the most weight, but they also pay out for who catches the biggest bass. So I've won that twice out of the last 6 times. My partner has won it once. So out of the last 6, we've got half of them. And they're like, does that stuff really work? It's like, that's all we use. And it's fabulous. And you'll start to see it show up in all of the Shields and all of the stores here locally too. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool.
it's awesome stuff.
What a
Billy
business.
Rub Baits.
Yep.
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Well, Marnie, we're going to have to get a commercial endorsement, because, when people start buying it, because if you buy Billy Rub Bait, tell them you heard about it on KHOP88.
There you go. That would be perfect.
All right. Well, did we leave anything out, Phil? Is there anything going on in your world that you thought we would talk about that we haven't?
Boy, there's all kinds of things we could talk about. But when it comes to, the Hopkins High School, I still look back on that. And as a real estate agent, we look at the big schools, right? A lot of people want to live in the Minnetonka School District. Wayzata, Minnetonka. Hey, they're all nice as well. Hopkins seems to get a bad rap for whatever reason. When it comes down to it, I think it's their close proximity in between those 3 big ones. When it comes to having a family or going to high school, I'd do both of them over again in a heartbeat. I still look back at some of those times, and it's ultimately the best, whether it was close-knit group of friends or, the teachers, the people that you got to meet. Because now, part of being an engineer, I talked to the same 4 or 5 people day in and day out for 20 years. That got to be old. Well, real estate, it's 10 new people every single day. But high school, it was hundreds every day that you could see. So, yep, cherish those a lot.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love the fact that we went to a big old school. And yeah, what I was just hearing somebody, talk the other day about how, kids at a certain high school, their class is 7 kids total in a, senior graduating
Wow.
class. And I thought, man, that is the, what a polar opposite of what we did. I mean, it was a small city, Hopkins High School.
Yes.
It was, but you could say you finished in the top 10 in your class. You know, in your example, you know,
Right.
you could have been
Yeah.
last and you're still top 10. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of our kind thoughts about our classmates, I did want to share a moment of silence for Brad Lovelace, our classmate who passed away after a long battle of cancer. And several people told us about this, and I just wanted to share this with all of you, and we will miss him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, many, I remember Brad from Avalon's class, from AP history.
I'm going to go look him up.
Yeah.
Why is that name familiar? You know, I just can't put the two together. It's only been 30 years, so.
I'm going to say choir as well. For
Mhm.
Brad.
Maybe so.
Yeah. Marnie, who's coming up on KHOP88?
Well, I've been hard at work, thanks
I
to
know.
many of you. Okay, ready? Next week, Tan Nguyen, can't wait. He's an architect in Minneapolis. September 28th, Kathleen Russett-Stacey. Thank you. October 5th, the one and only John Dale, who is not on Facebook.
Big D.
Big D. October 12th, Michael Eiley. October 19th, one of you who is watching. We don't know yet.
Oh, we're open slot is what you're saying.
Open slot. October 26th, Wendy White McDougall. November 2nd, open slot. November 9th, the baseball team. Get ready. Haugen will be contacting you. And then on December 7th, the band show. It's going to be an awesome autumn. But Phil, you are episode 66 of KHOP88.
Wow. Top
Amazing.
10%. I think 11% is coming up.
It's all right here. Yeah, it all comes home for sure.
Yep. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. It was great. It was great catching up with you.
Yeah, thank you guys for inviting me. It's been wonderful.
Good luck to you out in Watertown and dealing with this crazy real estate market, wrapping up the selling season.
And Jason, the fishing. Good luck. I am so interested in the fishing conversation. I'm going to have to Google it.
So Facebook, if you're interested, I believe it is called Southwest Metro Bass Anglers. Give me just a second.
I'm psyched.
Boy.
My husband's
I'm not
from
a
the
fashion-
desert. He doesn't know anything about this stuff.
Yeah,
Great.
but it's just for fun, so it's all good.
And
Yeah,
a little
it's fun.
money.
And a little,
And a little money. Yep.
right.
It's a
Just
little bit
keep
of
it
money.
interesting.
Yep, it does. Certainly does.
All right, Marnie. Well, Marnie, we'll see you next Tuesday. Phil, thanks a lot. And
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
have
You
a
are
great week,
welcome.
everybody.
Be
All right.
safe. See you next
You bet.
Tuesday.
Take care, you guys.
Adios.